Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Time is but a window. Today we're going to change things up, and instead of my usual videos, I'm going to be doing a mouse review. The mouse is called the Ninox Venator. It's created by Ninox, who had previously released a mouse several years ago called the Aurora, which, if I remember correctly, had some really nice mouse buttons with very low input delay. Luckily, this mouse does hold up to that pedigree with relatively low input delay itself. Alright, let's begin with the mouse's size. Its measurements are 122 millimeters by 62 millimeters by 40 millimeters. That's 122 millimeters long, 62 millimeters wide, and 40 millimeters high. And it weighs about 80 grams. As someone who likes smaller mice, I personally love the size and shape of this mouse. For comparison, it sort of reminds me of a mixture between the ZA13 and ZA11, borrowing dimensions from both mice. Now, the mouse does have 5 buttons with 2 side buttons on the left-hand side. This means it's for right-handed players. The mouse seems to be made of a standard plastic, which feels a little bit cheap, but in all honesty, I like how low it keeps the weight of this mouse. So it's a trade-off I would gladly make. That being said, plastic can be slippery, and while some mice use rubber side grips, this one just has a texture on its plastic sides. I'm not one who gets sweaty hands, but those of you out there that do, beware. Let's move on to the main buttons. The mouse buttons feel nice, and for someone like me, almost perfect. While there's a bit of pre-travel while pressing the buttons, I feel this doesn't bother me, as I always push down the button slightly to allow myself to click faster. Speaking of that, as you guys know, a lot of people know me for my reaction time, so I went ahead and did a couple reaction time tests with this mouse and scored pretty well. I'd say the input delay is about as good as the Logitech G series mice. Here are my old results from the Logitech G303, so you can see the results are pretty close to each other as a comparison, which means the mouse buttons definitely get my seal of approval. Next up, let's talk about the mouse wheel. This mouse wheel is a little bit loose on the left and right, and is a little bit of a heavier scroll, which takes a bit more effort. While for someone like me this isn't a big thing, I could see it being a problem for someone who needs to make quick movements of the mouse wheel. Now, this mouse does seem to be driverless, and comes with a nifty paper which shows how to configure the mouse. Basically, it takes how Zowie does it and simplifies it. Click and hold the middle DPI button for 5 seconds and it will blink. Then you can use the left and right click to change the color, the side buttons to change the profile DPI, and just hold the DPI button down for 5 more seconds to set it. Very simple. On to the note of the side buttons. They are a little bit different and raised outwardly like pointy little triangles. I'm not a big fan of this because I accidentally press them from time to time, but I think I could get used to it. So next up, we're going to talk about the sensor. For those of you guys that know about sensors, this uses the PixArt 3360, which, like most PixArt 3360s, perform flawlessly. I moved this mouse up to 5 meters a second, which is faster than most people ever make their mice move, and the graph showed that it tracked perfectly. And keep in mind that while I moved this mouse up to 5 meters a second, it is rated up to 7 meters a second, which is incredibly fast. Basically, while we're on the subject, I feel that this sensor should be standard for all upcoming mice. It annoys me to see companies not use this when it is so readily available. In fact, there is only one sensor that can even claim to be better than this one, and the only people that have the rights to that is Razer. Now, while that is said, there is something a little bit off about the sensor. Its position feels a little bit low. Now, this is only enhanced by the grip style I use, which is a claw grip, but those of you using a palm grip would find that to be a little bit less noticeable. For those of you wondering why I'm bringing this up, in most mice, it's aimed to have the sensor position in the exact dead center. In this case, it is 8 millimeters below the center, which isn't really that much, but, you know, some people will notice it, others won't. Going back to grip styles momentarily, I want to make sure that you guys know this mouse is aimed at palm grip and claw grip, and will probably not work for you if you're using a fingertip grip. So to restate, overall this is a great mouse for people who are looking for a smaller mouse and use a palm grip. The mouse button latency reaches the gold standard set by the Logitech G series, and so does the sensor performance. This mouse comes with extra mouse feet, and if pre-travel bothers you, there are 2 screw areas inside the mouse where you can place small screws to tighten the buttons down. The driver's list features are a major step forward from Zowie, and I found it quite easy to memorize and change my settings. Finally, this is one of the best performing mice currently out, and if you can get past the slightly lower sensor position, you will find a mouse with one of the lowest click latencies and highest tracking speeds on the market. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. There is a link to the mouse in the description below. Have a great day.